we have English on channel 1, French on channel 2, Arabic on channel 3, Portuguese on channel 4, Spanish on channel 5, and Kiswahili on channel 6. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome indeed to this second day of an epoch-making conference which will define the future of our continent in as much as it pertains to food security, the alleviation of hunger, and the alleviation of poverty. My first indication is to alert you to the fact that our program has been revised. It hasn't been so much changed, but revised. And if I may summarize, the 4 elements which will take us to a photo session and a coffee break before what continues for the rest of the day will be in closed session. First of all, in what is being called the opening ceremony now, we have the presentation of the draft program for adoption. Element number 2 will involve welcoming remarks. Element number 3 will involve ministerial statements. And it is after that that I will ask for the heads of delegations and ministers to go outside a wonderful idyllic spot for a group photograph. However, it is my consummate pleasure to introduce the gentleman who is going to be facilitating all the events this morning. And it's my great pleasure to introduce to you our facilitator, the Minister for Foreign Affairs, Cooperation and Mauritanians Abroad, and chairperson of the Executive Council of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania, His Excellency Okay, it's okay.
It's good in good faith, eh?
Yes.
Following EU procedures.
Yes.
So just hand over to that lady.
Thank you.
She's the secretary to the commission.
Yes. Thank you. I'm going to revise my announcement. How about that? The person whom I was going to ask to present the draft program will indeed facilitate our morning session. So, if I may kindly call upon Ms. Dalitso Bonongwe, Secretary to the AU Commission. Sorry, could you please go that way? A round of applause. She's probably a bit scared. Thank you.
Your Excellency, Dr. Mohamed Salim Mirzo, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Cooperation, and Mauritania's Abroad, and the Chairperson of the Executive Council of the Islamic, and the Minister for Islamic Republic of Mauritania. Your Excellency, Honorable Mithika Rinturi, Cabinet Secretary of the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Development of the Republic of Kenya. Your Excellency, Honorable Dr. Musalia Mudavadi, Prime Cabinet Secretary and Cabinet Secretary for Foreign and Diaspora Affairs of Republic of Kenya. Excellencies, Ministers of Agriculture and Foreign Affairs, Excellency Dr. Monique Sazabaganwa, Deputy Chairperson of African Union Commission, Excellencies, Commissioners, distinguished partners, all protocols observed. Since this is the first time I'm taking the floor, I wish to convey my sincere condolences for the unfortunate event the Kenya government has suffered due to the floods. We really suffer with you. May the Almighty God see you through. I'm humbly presenting the draft agenda for this joint meeting of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Ministry of Agriculture, which is going to be chaired by His Excellency Dr. Mohamed Salim Mirzo, Minister for Foreign Affairs, Cooperation, and Mauritania's Abroad, and who is also the chairperson of the Executive Council. Today's meeting is categorized in 3 sessions. We have the opening ceremony, followed by closed session, and finally we will have the closing ceremony. In the opening ceremony, we are going to have welcoming remarks. These are going to be given to us by His Excellency Chairperson of this meeting, followed by welcoming remarks by Her Excellency Ambassador Joseph Asako, AU Commissioner for ARBE. Thereafter, we shall have statements. The statements are going to be given by Her Excellency Deputy Chairperson of the African Union Commission, followed by Honorable Minister of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries, Dr. Honorable Frank Tumwebaze, followed by Honorable Minister Mithika Rinturi, who is also the Cabinet Secretary of the Ministry of Agriculture. And finally, we shall have the statement by Honorable Dr. Musalia Mudavadi. After that, we shall have a group photo, followed by a coffee break. That's the end of the opening ceremony. After that, we shall move into the same room, but for closed session. As it sounds, this is going to be a restricted mode of participation. In that, we have one substantive item, and this is presentation of the draft Nairobi Declaration on Fertilizer, Soil, and Healthy. This draft declaration is going to be presented to us by Honorable Dr. Musalia Mudavadi, Prime Cabinet Secretary and Cabinet Secretary for Foreign and Diaspora Affairs of Republic of Kenya. Thereafter, Honorable Chairperson of this session will open the floor for Excellency Ministers to comment on the declaration. After that, finally, we shall have closing remarks, and these remarks are going to be ushered to us by His Excellency Dr. Musalia Mudavadi. Excellency Chairperson, I submit the draft agenda for your facilitation of adoption. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Bonjour, chers collègues.
Good morning, dear colleagues. If there is no objection, I take it that the draft agenda stands adopted. So if there is no observation or any comments, we take it that this agenda stands adopted.
Excellencies, may we now have opening remarks by our Excellency Chairperson. Thereafter, we shall have opening remarks by Excellency Commissioner Sako. I thank you.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. qu'on observe une minute de silence.
A minute of silence in memory of the Kenyan victims following the recent floods in the country. A minute of silence, please.
شكرا.
Thank you.
والسلام على أشرف المرسلين.
Your Excellency, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Kenya, Your Excellency, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Minister of Agriculture, a distinguished Commissioner of the African Union in charge of agriculture, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, allow me first of all to sincerely thank my brother and friend, Dr. Musalia Mudavadi, and through him to the government and the people of Kenya for the warm welcome and hospitality that we all have enjoyed ever since we arrived in this beautiful city of Nairobi. May I also commend and congratulate the government of Kenya for the tremendous efforts that they've made to ensure and guarantee the success of this summit, of the African Union Summit on Fertilizers and Soil Health, which we're organizing today in this very green city of Nairobi as part of the 37th session of or after the 37th summit of the African Union Heads of State in February. As an assembly of heads of state which made it possible for Mauritania to be elected as the chair of the African Union, and which today Mauritania has the pleasure and the honor to convey to you very warm greetings and our wishes for a successful meeting. I'd also would like to convey to you the warm greetings of the head of the president of Mauritania, and also his condolences following the recent floods that the country suffered. May I also seize this opportunity to commend the efforts that were made by the ministers of agriculture, the Minister of Agriculture of Kenya, and also thank and congratulate my brother and friend, the chairperson of the African Union Commission, Mr. Mahamat Faki, for all the efforts that he and his team have made to ensure that we have a successful meeting, particularly a successful Agenda 2063 in all the sectors, especially in the agricultural sector, in order to meet the aspirations of the African people, aspiration towards development and sustainable development, and which we actually see being confirmed at this meeting here today. This special summit, Special African Fertilizer and Soil Health Summit, is actually part of the African Union efforts to find opportunities to rise up to the challenges which the continent faces, especially in the area of food security. And this is going to allow the African people at the end of the day to meet their goals of soil fertility, improve productivity. Agriculture is really fundamental for the future of the African continent. And agriculture is a fortress that will enable us to protect our continental sovereignty, especially in this global world of ours today. The future of Africa will depend on the achievement of the African people in the area of agriculture, development, and this requires a lot of work. It requires a lot of work, especially the efforts of many stakeholders, and also a lot of resources and the mastery of the mastery of the agricultural sector. It also requires a balance in the area of agriculture in terms of production. And we should not forget that water plays a key role in the area of agriculture and integration, because the African continent alone accounts for about 59%. Has about 59% of water basins, and this actually offers extraordinary means and water resources for our agriculture. As we've seen in many studies, about 20% of our people in Africa are malnourished or undernourished, and we see the growing population of our continent. And in a few years' time, the population of Africa will hit 1 billion people by 2040. And so it is our duty and obligation to ensure that all African countries ensure that they feed their people, their populations, without which the whole idea of food security would be a failure. So it is important for us to pool our efforts together to ensure stability and security on the continent through food security, like I said a while ago. So all these dangers and all these challenges that we'll face require that tremendous efforts or measures are taken in order to invest all our capacities and our resources in a very smart manner. And I am convinced that 62% of the African people is made up of youngsters, and the continent has all the resources that you can think of in order to face these challenges in the area of food security. And so it is extremely important that we use the resources that we have available. The COVID pandemic recently proved to us, and even the Ukrainian crisis, that there are a lot of challenges out there, and the food insecurity is actually growing. And so there is absolute need for us to seize this opportunity and to solve the food insecurity problem. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to say that Agenda 2063 recalls African solidarity. African solidarity as our top priority, and I am convinced that African solidarity can only have, or is a dream that we can meet if we have collective action from all the children of the African continent. And so the adoption of the framework document on the soil health and its implementation is the first step, is the first bold step toward the right direction across the continent. And this is also going to enable us to lay the groundwork for the launching of, it's the groundwork for moving towards the right direction of sustainable agriculture. And so we can only boast of our sovereignty if we have food security, if we have better agriculture, well-developed agriculture in Africa. So our sovereignty depends on this. And this, from all the four corners of Africa, we need to make sure that there is food security. In conclusion, I'd like to say that our organization would actually have a methodology that will lead us to achieving the goals that we have set for ourselves. And we do have the resources, and we have to be very smart in the way we use these resources to meet the aspirations of all our people, of the ministers of agriculture and all. Will have to put all hands on deck to ensure sustainable development and shared prosperity. So allow me also to say that Agenda 2063 is a very important document. Africa needs integration. Africa needs all the efforts of its sons and daughters so that we can all decide the future of this continent. I want to thank you for your kind attention.
Excellencies, now we are going to have welcoming remarks by Her Excellency Ambassador Joseph Vasako, who is the African Union Commissioner of ARBE. Your Excellency, you have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, SG, for giving me the floor. Good morning, every one of you. Let me start by acknowledging the presence of our principals, His Excellency Dr. Mohamed Salam Merzoug, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Cooperation and Mauritanian Abroad, and Chairperson of the Executive Council of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania. His Excellency, Her Excellency Dr. Monique Sanzabwana, Deputy Chairperson of the African Union Commission, His Excellency Dr. Masali, apologies for the pronunciation, Mudavadi, Prime Cabinet Secretary and Cabinet Secretary for Foreign and Diaspora Affairs of the Republic of Kenya, His Excellency Frank Tumwembeze, Minister of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fishery of the Republic of Uganda and the Chair of the African Union Specialized Technical Committee on Agriculture, Rural Development, Water, and Environment, His Excellency Mituka Linturi, Cabinet Secretary of the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Development of the Republic of Kenya, Excellencies, Ministers of Foreign Affairs, as well as Ministers of Agriculture of African Union Member States, Her Excellency Ambassador Minata Sesuma, Commissioner for Health, Humanitarian Affairs, Social Development of the African Union Commission, delegates from African Union states, head of Development Partner Institution, Excellencies Ambassador, and representative of regional and international organizations, representative of the private sector, civil society, farmers association, the medias, ladies and gentlemen, all protocol duly observed. A good morning to all of you. I have a very short task today because our Vice President of the African Union Commission is going to deliver her statement on behalf of the African Union Commission. So my task here, my basic task is just to welcome Your Excellencies. So on behalf of the African Union Commission, I welcome Your Excellencies to Day 2 of 2024 African Fertilizer and Soil Health Special Summit. And once again, I would like to take this opportunity to thank the government of Kenya for partnering with us to host this event. Yesterday, we had very rich and extensive deliberations by our ministers of agriculture. Today's joint deliberation by the esteemed ministers of foreign affairs and as well as ministers of agriculture of the African Union member state is to continue the rich deliberation which will guide us to come up with the summit declaration. Once again, I welcome Your Excellencies to this event and I thank you very much for kind attention. Asante sana, muito obrigada, muitas gracias, shukran.
Excellencies, now we move to statements. The first speaker on that is Her Excellency Dr. Monique Sazabagana, Deputy Chairperson of African Union Commission. Excellency, you have the floor. Thank you.
Your Excellency, Dr. Musalia Mudavadi, Prime Cabinet Secretary and Cabinet Secretary for Foreign and Diaspora Affairs of the Republic of Kenya, our host today. Your Excellency, Dr. Mohamed Salem Merzoug, Minister for Foreign Affairs, Cooperation, and Mauritania's abroad of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania and Chairperson of the Executive Council. Your Excellency Frank Tumwebaze, Minister of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries of the Republic of Uganda and Chair of the African Union Specialized Technical Committee on Agriculture, Rural Development, Water, and Environment. Honorable ministers here present, my dear sister Ambassador Joseph Asako, Commissioner for Agriculture, Rural Development, Blue Economy and Sustainable Environment of the African Union Commission, and my other sister, Commissioner Minata of Health and Humanitarian Affairs, dear partners here present, their farmers, members of the private sector, of the media, of the civil society, and everyone in the background. Your Excellencies, all protocol observed. Please allow me to start by welcoming you to the Africa Fertilizer and Soil Health Summit, which aims at paving the way for the transformation of Africa's agriculture and agri-food systems. I take this opportunity to thank the government of Kenya for graciously accepting to host this summit here in Nairobi. I would also like to extend my sympathies to the families that lost their loved ones in the recent floods that occurred in different parts of this green country. Allow me to extend special thanks to my sister, Her Excellency, Ambassador Josepha Sako, for her leadership and tireless effort to ensure a successful holding of this summit after being postponed twice last year. This summit could not be held at a more opportune time than now, when the impact of COVID-19 coupled with the conflict in Ukraine, the multiple conflicts on the continent, and climate change is felt through low agricultural productivity and slowing economic growth. You will recall that in 2006, African heads of state and government endorsed the Abuja Declaration on fertilizers for a green revolution in Africa, with a target of 50 kilograms per hectare per annum. To date, our continent is still far from achieving this target, with an average fertilizer use rate standing at about 18 kilograms. In order to bridge the productivity gap with the rest of the world, Africa needs to take bold measures. This can only be done by agreeing on common measures, informed lessons from others, from within and outside the continent, on best practices. As dictated by the theme of this summit, which is "Listen to the Soil," a quote by Franklin Roosevelt reminds us that the nation that destroys its soil destroys itself, end of quote. Let us pay attention to our soils, understanding their needs and what make them more productive and responsive to our needs for now and for the future. During this summit, we are in day 2 today, but yesterday we heard our specialists and practitioners telling us about good practices combined with the adequate technologies to manage our soils, while ensuring that we do not destroy our environment. We will hear about actions which we need to take collectively to ensure that we close the gap in our best practices with the rest of the world, so as to maintain our competitiveness while we cater to the millions of Africans whose lives and livelihoods depend on agriculture and food systems. Without being prescriptive, we need to promote proven soil management practices applicable to local contexts for the overall good of every individual on the continent and beyond. I would like to echo what is said about our soil, that indeed Our soil is the reservoir of our water. It is the home of several microorganisms, insects, and other living organisms. And on the chemistry side, our soil is a source of and sink of soil nutrients. It plays a major role in attenuating toxic substances from the Earth's surface. This is vital to the sustenance of life on Earth. More importantly, and in recent decades, the role of our soil as the sink for carbon is a vital management resource for adaptation and mitigation of climate change. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we have a serious assignment on our hands today. I would like to call for renewed commitment and support to address the various issues of soil health and fertilizer use on the continent still face. I particularly call on you, our leaders in agriculture and in foreign affairs, to deploy enough resources to tackle these important issues for the good of millions of Africans. I would like to emphasize the important role that our private sectors have to play in this landscape. And therefore, the collaboration between governments and our private sectors and our research institutions and academicians to bring about technological and innovative solutions to tackling the challenges of soil health and fertilizer on our continent. This brings also into picture the interface with other sectors such as sanitation on the continent and also the challenge of urbanization and urban planning and settlement planning in this equation. I would not close this short statement without thanking our development partners, both technical partners and financial partners, for supporting the African Union and the government of Kenya to organize this summit. I call upon you to continue this commitment and support so as to ensure prosperous future for the continent and beyond, as we believe that Africa's growth will benefit the whole world indeed. Alone, we may be able to gain some miles, but together we will be unstoppable and will achieve food and nutrition security for all. Thank you for your kind attention. Merci, asante sana, obrigada, shukran, gracias.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency, Deputy Chairperson. Now the next statement is going to be given to us by His Excellency Frank Tumwebaze, Minister of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries of the Republic of Uganda, and Chair of the AU Specialized Technical Committee on Agricultural Development, Water and Environment. Thank you, sir.
His Excellency Dr. Musalia Mudavadi, the Prime Cabinet Secretary of the Republic of Kenya, His Excellency Dr. Muhammad Salim, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Mauritania, and the Chairman of the Executive Council of Mauritania, High Excellency Ambassador Joseph Asako, our sister, our hard-working machine. She's a hard-working machine of the Union, and we appreciate you for that. Colleague ministers of Agriculture and Foreign Affairs, heads of delegations, development partners, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, I bring you greetings from the Republic of Uganda, the Pearl of Africa. I thank the government of Kenya and the African Union Commission for organizing this important summit. And I want to thank once again the government of Kenya for the hospitality accorded to us for the last 2 days. Thank you, Right Honorable Cabinet Secretary, Prime Secretary. The summit is very timely because it offers us an opportunity as farming countries of Africa to discuss common approaches to handling the issue of our soil health. Every country seeks to achieve food security. Every country seeks to achieve animal feed security. Every country is seeking to achieve nutrition security. And every country is seeking to achieve environmental security. So the question is, how do we balance our food, our feed, our environment, and at the same time produce nutritious food? To achieve that positive balance, Your Excellencies, we have to pay attention to our soil. It is the starting point for all other interventions, and that's why I say that the summit is very timely. So for us to farm sustainably and produce and feed our people sustainably, we must keep our soils healthy and productive. We have to reverse the current trend of fertility loss, estimated at 80 kilograms of nutrients per hectare per year, and equally work on strategies to minimize topsoil erosion exacerbated by climate change. Our partner FAO has reported about 33% of the Earth's soils are already degraded, and over 90% could become so by year 2050. This therefore necessitates the need for replenishing what is being lost. To reverse this trend, which is common amongst our countries, we must pay attention to the Abuja Summit Declaration of 2006 and ensure that we apply at least 50 kilograms of nutrients per hectare per year by 2015. However, many countries, like we said yesterday, including Uganda, we still face, we are still below this average. I think I need to congratulate our brothers of Ethiopia. I saw they are making good progress. The factors or the challenges or the pull down side factors we have all acknowledged is the cost of fertilizer. It is the low investment in fertilizer production. It is the perception that traditionally our soils are rich and therefore no need for fertilizer. And of course, we also have the low capacity and knowledge by our smallholder farmers. And now with world global wars, supply chains have become a problem, and therefore importation of fertilizer becomes capital intensive. So these are the challenges we must face and discuss to solve together. As Uganda, we are currently focusing on some of the following initiatives. Working with partners like Kenya, we are investing in the railway network and use of available waterways like Victoria to ease importation challenges. We are engaging with the private sector players in fertilizer industry to produce locally with available fertilizer raw materials. And we are trying to finance, to put in place financing mechanisms through Uganda Development Corporation and the Agriculture Credit Facility for the private sector involved in fertilizer importation and trade to get affordable financing. And at farmer level, government has provided grants as a revolving fund in their saving and credit cooperatives through a framework we call the parish development model, where government provides $30,000 per parish. Parish is the lowest local government unit in our governance structure. Government is intervening through provision of fertilizer-related knowledge by conducting in-country soil testing, soil mapping, zoning, and fertilizer performance trials, thereby updating fertilizer recommendations regularly for guidance towards integrated nutrient management. We are also promoting research in soil health and climate-resilient adaptive varieties through the National Agricultural Research Systems for restoration of soil fertility and enhancing productivity. With enhanced use of appropriate fertilizers, we will not only address nutrient losses, but also enhance production and productivity for food, nutrition and animal feed security, as well as incomes. However, as individual countries, we can no longer afford to operate in silos and hope to survive. There is therefore need for concerted efforts, and these are my recommendations. Increasing production and blending of fertilizers, leveraging the readily available raw materials in the various member countries. We can act together and strengthen the capacity of suppliers to deliver fertilizers at the right quantity, quality, and time through access to affordable finance and trade facilitation. We can give incentives to smallholder farmers to increase uptake of appropriate fertilizers, recognizing that cost and knowledge are key impediments to this critical group that has for long fed the continent. And we need to continue to act together in the mitigation of climate change through rehabilitation and the restoration of the environmentally sensitive ecosystems, especially wetlands and slopes. Promote and strengthen regional and national research capacity to cope with tailor-made recommendations that guide manufacture, blending, and application of fertilizers. Enhance regulatory and institutional capacity to ensure the quality and environmentally safe supply and use of fertilizers through enhancing capacity of quality assurance laboratory infrastructure and human resource. And finally, effectively manage fertilizer-related knowledge through in-country soil mapping, soil testing, as I had said. I thank you, Your Excellencies, for listening to me.
Thank you so much, Excellency Minister. The next statement is going to be presented to us by His Excellency Mitika Rinturi, Cabinet Secretary of the Ministry of the Agriculture and Livestock Development of the Republic of Kenya. Excellency, it's your turn. Thank you.
I'm going to read this statement on behalf of the Minister for Agriculture and Livestock Development for Kenya, Honorable Mitika Rinturi, who is not here with us today. I'm the Principal Secretary in charge of Ministry of Agriculture, the Department for Agriculture for Kenya. Your Excellency, Honorable Dr. Musalia Mudavadi, Prime Cabinet Secretary and Cabinet Secretary for Foreign and Diaspora Affairs, Republic of Kenya. Excellency Ambassador Josepha Lasako, AU Commissioner for Agriculture, Rural Development, Pro-Economy and Sustainable Development, African Union Commission. Honorable Ministers, Excellencies, Delegates, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I am happy to be part of this Ministerial Session for Agriculture and Foreign Affairs on this second day of the African Fertilizer and Soil Health Summit today. We are happy as a country and as a Ministry of Agriculture to have hosted this great event for the next 3 days. As Agriculture Ministers, we presented our country's statements and key interventions towards achievements of the Abuja Declaration. We acknowledge that the path to global food security begins from the soil. We need to take care of the soil in order to feed the world. We were also privileged to receive statements from the regional economic communities and partners who pledged their support and alignment to the aspiration of the African Union on food security and sustainable agricultural development. Further, we discussed and gave our inputs on Soil Initiative for Africa, the 10-year Africa Fertilizer and Soil Health Action Plan, and draft Nairobi Declaration on Fertilizer and Soil Health. The Soil Health Initiative for Africa intends to establish a system to improve soil health and fertility across the continent. This system will improve agricultural productivity, economic growth, sustainable livelihoods, water availability, and sustainable natural resources-based and adaptation and mitigation of the climate change. The 10-year action plan will contribute to revising soil degradation, increasing fertilizer consumption and efficiency, accelerating inclusive agricultural transformation, and enduring hunger, malnutrition, and poverty on the continent of Africa. The Nairobi Declaration gives commitment on fertilizer use, soil health, financing, creating an enabling environment, and capacity enhancement to support implementation. The documents enable us to develop the Agricultural Ministerial report for concurrence with our foreign affairs counterparts, touching on areas such as policy harmonization, strengthening institutional capacity, facilitating regional trade, and domestication of regional aspiration into national action plans. Ladies and gentlemen and excellencies, we are privileged as a country and as a ministry to have fostered you on this engagement, and we have no doubt that as African continent and as ministers for agriculture, we'll finally carry the day as we try to listen to the soil so that we can provide the livelihood for the people of Africa and to work on the nutrients content required for our soil. Once again, I welcome you to Kenya, and I'm looking forward to fruitful discussion for the next 2 days so that as African leaders, we can make deliberate decisions to support food security for African people. Thank you very much. Asanteni sana. It is now my privilege to welcome now our chief guest for today, Honorable Dr. Musalia Mudavadi, the Prime Cabinet Secretary and Cabinet Secretary for Foreign Affairs and Diaspora Affairs, to come and make his statement. Welcome.
Okay. Good morning once again, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Your Excellency, Dr. Mohamed Salem Ould Mazog, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Cooperation, and Mauritanians Abroad of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania and Chairperson of the Executive Council, Your Excellencies, Foreign Ministers, Honorable Frank Tumewa-Baze, Minister of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries of the Republic of Uganda, and Chair of the AU Specialized Technical Committee on Agriculture, Rural Development, Water and Environment, Honorable Mithika Linturi, Cabinet Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture, Livestock Development of the Republic of Kenya, Your Excellencies, Ministers of Agriculture, Your Excellency, Ambassador Josepha Sako, AU Commissioner for Agriculture, Rural Development, Blue Economy, and Sustainable Environment, African Union Commission, Commissioners of the African Union Commission, and indeed, the Deputy Chair of the African Union Commission, who spoke to us earlier, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I am pleased to welcome you once again to this forum, and in particular, my colleagues, Ministers of Foreign Affairs, who are joining us today. It is a great honor and privilege to be part of this joint meeting between the Ministers of Foreign Affairs and Ministers of Agriculture. Our joint agenda is to review the outcome of the deliberations of yesterday's meeting that brought together policymakers and experts as well as various stakeholders on Africa fertilizer and soil health. Our deliberations today therefore will aim to consolidate the key outcomes and commitments that will be geared to address the widespread and long-decade decline in soil quality, a phenomenon that continues to negatively impact Africa's agricultural production capacity and food security. You will recall that the Abuja Declaration adopted in June 2006 positioned fertilizer as a vital strategic resource to increase crop yields and to address the associated impacts of food insecurity and low income for small-scale farmers. Since its adoption, low agricultural productivity, food insecurity, and land degradation remain the foremost among the key challenges hampering Africa's ability to provide sustainable food and nutrition security to its people. It is therefore befitting that this summit is convened at this juncture for the continent to take decisive steps to sustainably increase agricultural productivity while mitigating the fertilizer-related contributions to climate change. Africa has set multiple goals under Agenda 2063, the Comprehensive Africa Agriculture Development Program, CAADP, the Malabo Declaration, and Africa's climate change strategy to increase agricultural productivity and production. These goals focus on environmentally sustainable and climate-resilient production, improved water productivity and security, biodiversity conservation, and sustainable natural resource management. A crucial requirement for achieving these goals is to improve soil health in all agricultural and subsectors across the continent through a combination of sustainable agricultural practices and approaches. I am happy to note that Kenya has embarked on a program to boost its agricultural sector by providing small-scale farmers with subsidized fertilizers at half the commercial prices to cushion them against high costs of fertilizer. It is my conviction, therefore, that all the AU member states are embarking on implementing various strategies to address the challenges of sustainable food production and hence the importance of addressing usage of fertilizer and soil health. The importance of agriculture in our economies cannot be gainsaid. Here in Kenya, the agricultural sector contributes approximately a third, that is 33% of Kenya's gross domestic product, and employs over 40% of the total population, including 70% of the rural population. Therefore, the outcomes of this discourse on fertilizer and soil health will positively impact the agricultural sector and ultimately the economy. Your Excellencies, I take this opportunity to appreciate the deliberations from the report by the Ministers of Agriculture. We take note of the challenges faced in the operationalization of the Abuja Declaration and call for concerted efforts towards implementing the 10-year action plan that we will endorse. This will guide our policies and investments to enhance soil health, boost fertilizer effectiveness, and increase farmers' yields and profitability. Our joint meeting will deliberate on the draft Nairobi Declaration with a view to making appropriate recommendations for consideration and adoption by the heads of state and government during the extraordinary summit that Kenya is pleased to host. In this regard, it is my hope that the declaration will capture the aspirations of the stakeholders in the agriculture sector, and in particular, the small-scale and marginalized farmers who constitute the majority across Africa. We should also put in place affirmative action for inclusivity of women and youth. It will ensure the realization of our Agenda 2063's comprehensive African Agriculture Development Program goals, which envisage the elimination of hunger and reduction of poverty by raising economic growth through agriculture-led development. The Nairobi Declaration will therefore provide a concrete action plan for ensuring sufficient, nutritious, and quality African-produced food on our tables across the continent. Indeed, this will significantly reduce the bill on foreign food imports and dependence, thus freeing much-needed resources for investment in other productive sectors of our economy. I urge development partners, financial institutions, private sector, and all stakeholders to rally behind the collective outcomes of this summit and support the financing for implementation of various activities of the Nairobi Declaration Action Plan. Let me conclude by emphasizing the importance of our collective efforts to effectively address the common challenges that continue to strain our already dire food security situation. I wish to reiterate Kenya's commitment to work closely with the African Union member states and all relevant stakeholders to ensure the objective of the action plan are realized. I wish you successful deliberations, and thank you once again.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency Prime Cabinet Secretary and Cabinet Secretary. Excellencies and distinguished guests, allow me just to make a quick announcement which is not on the program in black and white. The African Union Commission is kindly inviting African Union member states who wish to sign the convention for the establishment of the African Center for Fertilizer Development not to miss this opportunity to express themselves. The convention was adopted in 1985, July, and came into force in July 2012. The following 8 countries have already signed and ratified the convention. We have Benin, Burkina Faso, Comoros, Ethiopia, Gabon, Libya, Mali, and Zimbabwe. However, we have also 33 countries that have signed the convention: Benin, Burkina Faso, Burundi, Cameroon, Central African Republic, Chad, Cote d'Ivoire, Comoros, Congo, Djibouti, DRC, Ethiopia, Gabon, Gambia, Ghana, Guinea-Bissau, Guinea, Libya, Liberia, Madagascar, Mali, Mauritania, Nigeria, Niger, Senegal, Sierra Leone, Somalia, Sao Tome and Principe, Sudan, and Zimbabwe. So we are kindly reminding you to take opportunity to express yourself as regards this important convention. I thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for your time. It is now time for a coffee tea break, but I'd like us to first of all allow our ministers, heads of delegation, to be the first to go outside, to allow them to exit with a certain amount of decorum for the photo session outside the main entrance of the conference center. I shall give the please go ahead and we will allow them to go out first. We will then have 35 minutes, look at your watches please, 35 minutes from now, would you be back in this room again, please? But when you do come back in this room, it'll be for a closed session. It'll be a closed session. And again, I am told that in the words of the Secret Service film, you know who you are because of the designation and the signatures. The next session will be a closed session. So, delegates for tea downstairs beside a sign that says Lenana and Aberdairs for the delegates. Everybody else outside the Tintin, which we recognize from yesterday. So you're either going outside or going downstairs. It's a big room to ask if everybody got those instructions. So, Prime Cabinet Secretary, I'm going to ask you to lead everybody out for the photo session. Madame Sacco, si vous voulez bien sortir les premiers. Okay, so just the rest of us remain seated for 2 seconds, just to allow them to go without any kind of traffic jam. Just allow our, it will take 2 seconds. Just please remain seated, the rest of us, and then we can all follow. Just 2 seconds of patience, please. Do you want me to announce something, sir? Do you want me to announce something? Okay. Right, I think we're good to go. Enjoy your break. Let us see each other again in 35 minutes.